Computer. Okay, so anything you say can and will be used against you. Here we go. Before we get started, the one thing that we are working on, our Firesmart board, is an amendment to our Firesmart plan for the island. We did the last one for a 3-year period, and that 3 years is now up. So we're going to be doing an amendment to that plan. And once we get it kind of roughed out, we're going to have a public meeting, and looks like if things kind of trend the way they're trending, we should be able to even do that in person. So get some input from everybody. And I think most of the plan is going to be keeping on the same track as we're on, but we do need to talk about the boulevards and where we're at. We kind of, in our original plan, we had set the boulevards aside for further discussion at a later point, basically just avoiding the issue. And so now it's time to dig into that a little bit more. So that'll be coming up through the summer before our fall park stuff. So okay, so sorry, I'm gonna have to try sharing the screen one more time here. So if you see those weird things again, please let me know. Okay.
Yep. We see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm just trying to, how do I get out of here? What's going on here? Okay, so can anybody see that?
Yeah, but the flashing's there.
Flashing's still there? Okay, well, let's get the heck out of there then.
Oh, it's gone. Oh, now it's back.
Okay, I'll just, I just happen to have that information right here. So basically what's going to happen is May 6th, the barge comes over with the chipper truck. He'll get started chipping around the island, and the 2 bins will arrive shortly after. They'll be full of compost. Peter's going to talk about that in a couple minutes. And so basically we're going to deal with the compost on the 6th, and the chipper truck will get going. Then on the 7th, we're going to open up the bins from 9 in the morning until whatever, usually go till 4 or something like that. And so bring your stuff down there. We, I think in the last email I sent out that we did get a little bit of won a little bit of an award and got an extra grant for $500. So we're going to have some snacks and drinks and stuff at the dog park on May 7th as well. And then basically on the 8th, the Sunday, we'll continue bringing stuff down. And also Neil's group, Neil's got all the people organized for picking up whatever odds and sods of stuff to go to the bin. So that'll happen on the Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, chipping is complete, and then Doug's going to come down. Thanks to Doug and Paul again for letting us use the excavator, and Doug for running it. And so he'll load the bins on the afternoon of the 10th. That's the Tuesday, I believe. And then everything disappears on the next day. And then on May 14th, we're going to have the sprinkler trial, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And that's in the morning, and then we'll have our wrap-up Zoom meeting in the evening with our draws for some great prizes again. So that is what the week's going to shape up to look like. Don't know if anybody's got any questions on that. Basically, everybody should be kind of used to the process now. So I'm going to turn it over to Peter, and he can talk about compost.
Yeah, just before you.
Oh, go ahead, Neil.
Just before you do that, I think on that Sunday, Jim Harris is going to do a round with the truck and I guess the trailer to use for bottles after they've done bottles.
Yeah,
Then
that's-
Neil and probably Kathy will follow up with Ray's trailer, probably not on the Sunday, but on the
okay.
Monday.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Okay, Peter?
Well, you probably all remember in the fall, we decided to make use of the dumpsters that we were bringing over, that we take a lot of biomass off the island, and we thought we should bring some on the island. So we brought over soil, and it was a big success. It all disappeared. So we thought that in the spring, this year, we would bring over some compost. The community garden had done it in the past, but they're not doing it anymore. So we decided that we would do that. So on Saturday, we're going to have 2 dumpsters full of compost brought to the island, and one will be put down at the 4 corners for the people on the north end of the island, and one down in the dog park for people on the south end of the island. And as in the fall, we're going to be charging $10 for a 6 cubic foot wheelbarrow load. So not precisely sure when the dumpsters will be there, but around about 11 o'clock, we think on the Saturday that they should be there. And so come with your wheelbarrows or a trailer, and get some compost at a very good price. We're able to sell it without, basically by bringing it over in the dumpsters, we eliminate the transport cost to Protection Island, so you can get it just at very close to the cost of the compost itself. So it's a good deal. So everybody come out, and hopefully we can. That people will take all of the compost that we have, and now's the time to put it on your garden. Things are going to start to grow if it ever warms up, and that's it for the compost.
Excuse me, Peter, you said Saturday and I
Oh,
had
the
it down
6th.
as
What's the 6th? What's the 6th? The 6th
That's
is
Friday.
Friday. Sorry,
Yeah,
Friday.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
Friday the
All right.
6th. Yeah, and so you'll probably hear the trucks come and know that they're there. So again, one pile on the north end of the island by the 4 corners there, and another pile down at the dog park.
Anybody have any questions for Peter? Excellent, we're humming right along here. Okay. Once again, I'm going to try sharing my screen, and we'll see if Nancy is able to, multiple participants can share simultaneously. Oops, okay, let's give that a try, Nancy, and see.
Okay, how's that? Just a sec here. Oh,
Look at that.
Well,
Oh, almost.
sorry, try again. Um, Now, for some reason. Just one sec.
That's good. We can see you now.
Can you see my PowerPoint?
Oh,
No,
no, we just see you.
Okay, what I'm trying to show you is a slide. Here it is. Share and
There we
view. How's that?
Good.
there,
Okay, okay.
no
This is going
flashing,
to be
no flashing screen or anything this time?
No.
No,
hopefully not. So this is going to be short and sweet. And I know I'm talking to people who understand the issues and the complexity of this topic. As we've already heard, it's not an easy question about what plants are invasive and what we should do about them. But just first of all, acknowledge that we're here on the territory of the Snuneymuxw Nation, and the Snuneymuxw people have been here for countless generations and have spent a lot of time on this island over the years. And so think about what the island was like, say 500 years ago, and what species would have been here. And there's no way we can go back to the way it was at that time, but it would be very nice if we could keep some of the key elements of that original landscape that the Nunamuk have cared for generations. And the invasive species that we identify here, many of them were brought here intentionally. They come from Europe or Asia sometimes, and a few other places, but a lot of them are ornamental species that people brought because we like to backyards with us when we go places. We like to have some memories from our home place when we move to another place. And so planting these plants like English holly or English ivy was just what people did. To have a bit of the old country to bring with them. Others like the cheat grass, which I gather is hugely invasive on Snake Island out here off Protection. Poison hemlock and some of the others came along as hitchhikers with I don't know, wheat or bringing the water pipeline or by boats, whatever. They came along with livestock and so forth, and they're here as well. But a lot of these plants, we have to remember, have great value in their home places. If you look at the European herbals or Chinese traditional medicine, you'll see that some of these species are featured as being healing plants or being used in various other ways. So we have to keep that in mind when we think of them in a negative context as invasives. But the problem with invasive species is that they can take over and they can remove the original species altogether. So we were talking about what happens with the eastern squirrel, who've replaced the Douglas fir squirrel in a lot of their original habitat. And we see here this photo of periwinkle that is virtually taken over an original patch of camas. This is from Victoria. The camas seed pod is right there. You can see it, but it's barely surviving. And this would have been an area that would have been a camas meadow at one time. And if you go up to the interior, you can see vast tracts of land that are taken over by knapweed. That would have originally had a suite of native species there. So that's the problem. And often they're so successful, they can outcompete the native species. So here's a picture of what happened near our place in Victoria at Cedar Hill Park. There was a fire. And the first year, the camas was huge. It formed a huge patch and it was in full bloom. But 2 years later, what happened? The broom successfully regrew and reseeded itself. And the camas is still there, but it's totally obliterated by the growth of the Scotch broom. So these are some of the major invasive plants we have in Protection Island. And one among the worst is English ivy, because it's not that it grows up the trees. Mostly the trees can survive having ivy growing on them, but it forms a dense cover over the ground and shades out and doesn't allow native species to grow at all. They have to push their way up through this mat of evergreen leaves, and most of them just get suppressed and die off. So that's a problem with ivy. Then we have the Daphne laurel, which everyone knows is an attractive shrub, and people are still planting it in their gardens. But it has berries, and the berries get eaten by birds, and the birds fly into the forest, and it grows very well in a shaded understory. So we have it all over the island here. English hawthorn is another one that is spread by birds, and birds love the berries. So in a sense, it's supporting our wildlife by having it, but in another sense, it's taking over habitat that other berry producing species, including our native black hawthorn, could grow in. Oops, sorry. We'll go back for a minute. English holly, again, spread by birds, and it has male and female bushes. So you might see some out there that don't have berries on them. Those are probably the male bushes, but they're spread all through the understory of the island. And of course, the beautiful and delicious, let's see if I can get this to move, Himalayan blackberry, which like the otters, everyone has kind of a love-hate relationship with this plant because the berries are delicious and all of us like to pick them, including Annie, who is a very enthusiastic berry picker.
That's their document, you know, that are all.
Yes. So, but it forms these huge and takes over from a lot of native shrubs and plants along our roadsides and in the wetlands, and we can see it in Smuggler's Park and so forth. So these plants, I mean, there are many, many others. These ground covering invasives like the creeping buttercup, the lamiums, this new burrweed that we have a lot of now starting, and periwinkle, and the different species of geraniums, the wild geraniums, and the sedum that is becoming very invasive in places, and yet people are still planting it out. I see there was some for sale in the plant sale that's coming up. And then we have a whole suite of grasses that were brought in largely for livestock use, but some of them have just taken over. And this cheatgrass is now spread all over Smuggler's Park, and the reed canary grass is spread over in the wetlands down at Pirates Park. So these are ones that, you know, they're growing in places where originally native species were growing. And we talked about the black squirrels, and we have the starlings. I remember seeing the first starling in Victoria when I was a kid, and I was so excited to see this beautiful bird. But they've taken over habitat and nesting places of a lot of the native songbirds. So this is my thought. We'll never be able to eliminate these species, and we don't necessarily want to. But we need to also protect and cherish the original species of this place and look after them and maintain their habitats and try to reduce this disturbance, because that's when the invasive species come in. It's when the ground is dug up or disturbed, and that gives an opening for them to come. So don't dump your garden waste into natural areas, which people have done in the past. Check out the plants that you plant in your garden and make sure they're not going to spread. And just keep an eye on the native species and try to learn about them and appreciate them. And that's about all I can say for now. So thank you for your attention.
Wow, that was really
and
interesting.
this pamphlet, I have with me. It was sent to me, and I'll donate it to the library. So if anyone wants to look at the pamphlet, it gives some alternatives for growing plants that are less invasive in your garden. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Does anybody have any questions for Nancy?
Nancy, I've noticed the plant, it's in flower right now. Very similar to the Daphne, but it has quite a large yellowish green flower on top. There's some down by the mailbox at the circle.
Oh,
I've seen one kind of growing along the edge of the grass there, along Pirates Lane, just past Peter and Nella's place. I don't know what it is.
I can't, I probably would know it if I saw it. So I'll go have a look around the mailboxes down at the Circle, Neil. And I'll let you know, maybe send a note out to ProWile about what it is. If you, unless you want to take a photo of it, and if you have a cell phone or something and could send it to me and I
don't
can
have a
tell you.
cell phone or something. but-
Okay, I'll go down and have a look and let you know, okay?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the one along the road by just past Peter and Nella's was quite prominent the last time I was around the island. So
Is it a woody plant or
I don't think
like
so,
a shrub?
but it has similar leaves to the Daphne. They're glossy green,
Hmm,
flat.
yellow flowers at
Yeah,
the top? Okay, I'll have a look. I can't think what it would be offhand, but I'm sure I could figure it out.
greenish yellow. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Neil. Dominique has a question for you, Nancy.
Yeah, I just, excuse me, I just thought of what it must be, which would be a euphorbia,
Yeah.
a
that's what I-
garden plant.
Mhm.
But I'll check it out anyway. Okay, sorry, Marion,
Oh, Dominique's got a question.
Dominique.
So I'm super new to gardening. I am a newbie. And so I just realized that the Laurel Daphne is invasive. So I've gone around and try to dig up and cut it around my yard. So first question is, when there's the chipping, do I need to haul that load to Gallows to get it chipped? Or does the chipper come and pick up? I have it in a separate pile.
Good for you for doing that.
Yeah, usually Daphne doesn't really hit the criteria for chipping, so we usually just bring it to the dog park and throw it in the bin.
And then the second thing is the green space that's in behind my house. Are we encouraged to jump the fence and start cutting kind of just the invasives in the parks?
Yeah, we are actually doing that park this fall.
Okay.
So that's on our agenda there, so. But,
I would just suggest don't cut them, because then they just sprout under the ground, and where you
Yeah.
had one, you'd end up with 10. You have to actually pull them out by the roots to
Well, big as trees. And so then I was thought, okay, I'm going to cut them, and then the sprouts, I'm going to dig them, because I was trying to, my brain is, and let me know if you think this is wrong, is that they were flowering and they're going to seed. And so I was just trying to stop them from going to seed.
mhm,
That's a very good strategy, I think.
yeah.
And then I'm going to do a second lap with my shovel. And then, but they were just giant. So that's why I don't, these muscles can't pull that.
We do have, I've got 2 weed pullers. They're just like big jacks, and you can just clamp onto the bottom of the plant and it just pulls it right out of the ground. It works really well for Daphne and small holly and small hawthorn. And then, as I was mentioning, that we did get that grant, so we are looking at maybe purchasing another one as well to lend out to people. So if you wanted, you drop it off and you want to give it a try, no problem.
I'm
It
still
works
waiting.
really well.
Okay, thank you. I have a small one, but it's mostly for just weeds in the grass, but I don't have like a big one that could do
Yeah,
something.
these are pretty skookum. So
Okay, thank you. I'm just doing my little part in like my little zone, Okay,
Good for
perfect.
you, Dominique. Good for you.
And I'm gonna pull down the ivy today. That was my goal. The ivy.
So the other thing, especially for people who are newer to the island, is you might be wondering why we're including some of these invasive plant activities with Firesmart activities. And there's sort of 2 reasons. One is that we are trying to maximize our volunteer potential on the island. So we're trying to have sort of larger scale events that kind of encompass trail building, pulling invasives, doing the Firesmart work and everything, so that we get as much done in an area as we can for the amount of volunteers we have. But the other thing is some of the invasives are pretty significant plants as far as carrying fire, like something like a holly, for example, is probably the most combustible ladder fuel we have on the island. They're just incredible. So to get those knocked down is certainly going to benefit both things. The one thing that we've discovered over the last couple of years with all these little projects we've been doing is for holly and especially English hawthorn, we cut the tree, say it's a 1 or 2 inch diameter tree off at about a foot above the ground, put some duct tape around it, a little bit of table salt, and just a touch of water. And it just, the plant is trying to heal itself, so it sucks all the salt into it, and it's, I'd say, 100% effective on hawthorn, and it's not 100% effective on holly, but it does really slow it down. So if you see in the parks, you see all these chunks of duct tape on all of the stubs. That's what it's for.
Thank you. That's ingenious. One quick question. For broom, I heard you're supposed to cut it when it blooms, or do I cut it right now to kill it?
That, Nancy?
Well, I'd say before it goes to seed for sure.
Yeah.
Because it has a way of throwing its seeds far and wide. So
Okay.
I don't
Now-
know which the best. I'd say the ground is softer now, and if you're pulling the broom out, this is the time to do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
thank
those weed pullers work great for broom as well, especially the bigger stalks. So
Okay. Well, I just appreciate all the help and the support. As you know, I'm learning, so I just want to say thank you for everything. You're getting me into gardening.
good
Yay.
stuff. Okay, any more questions for Nancy before we move on here? Excellent, thank you, Nancy. That's an excellent presentation. So if I fail in my attempt at getting this recording to Emily to put on the YouTube page, then Nancy's offered to forward her talk over to Emily, and we'll get that up at least. So, okay, so let's just talk a little bit about chip piles. I don't know, Anne, if you were successful in your mission to take a couple of pictures there or not, but
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
that's okay. So we have had pretty good success over the last few years. What we're trying to do is maximize the chip truck when it's here, and we've been pretty lucky with our grant, and we're getting a fair amount of money from Firesmart, but the more efficient we are, the further that money's going to go. So we've kind of evolved to rather than having a specific size of pile per person, to have neighbors cooperate. You have a larger chip pile so that the truck just has to stop once and chip one pile rather than stopping 5 times and chipping 5 piles, that kind of stuff. And we've also evolved to chipping the invasives as well, the holly and the hawthorn and that kind of stuff. So the one thing that we noticed last fall that we thought we should bring to everybody's attention is the quality of the chip piles. There was a whole bunch of stuff put out, and it was awesome that people worked so hard, but if the piles aren't kind of placed neatly on the side of the road and so to make it efficient for these guys, then it just takes so much longer. Like if some butts of the cuttings are one way and some are the other way, then they kind of have to turn everything. So it just slows them down. And we appreciate the work they do, and they do a lot of extra stuff for us as well while they're here. So we just want that set amount we have to as far as we can. So a few days ahead of when the chip truck gets here, we're going to do a little bit of a tour around the island. So if you get a knock on your door from Firesmart, it's because we would like you to fix up your pile a little bit. So it's an evolving thing. We'll take some pictures as people put their piles out, and sort of have some examples for the fall of what a good pile looks like, and not to embarrass anybody, but what a bad pile also looks like, so that we can more just for the learning exercise. And then the other thing with the piles is, of course, there's invasive piles, there's chip piles, there's stuff that goes to the bin, et cetera. But in the spring, we also allow lumber. If you're cleaning up around your yard and stuff and you have lumber and stuff, that's okay. We won't pick it up, but you can bring it to the bin and we'll put it in the bin. We just ask that you either pull your nails or lay them flat, so that the first year we did it, we got a few punctures on a few people. So we just want to kind of make sure everything's safe there. And we don't accept lumber, construction material, or land clearing material from new projects that are going on. We figure that the homeowners should be budgeting for that rather than kind of throwing a whole bunch of stuff in a bin, and which might restrict other people from, cleaning up their yards. So that is kind of the chip piles scenario. We are going to. We never really know when the chip truck comes what chipper they have dragging behind them. So some produce really nice chips that are good for people to use in their yards or whatever, but some produce really nasty chips that just aren't any good. So once the truck comes and starts working, we'll sort of evaluate what the chips look like, and if there's a potential to have a chip pile, we'll probably establish that in the same spot we did last year across from Neil's place there, and so people to use it. But we just ask that if you're going to use it in your yard, if you can keep it at least a couple meters away from structures and that kind of stuff, so we're not creating a big problem. And then, yeah, if you've got any questions on your piles, feel free to contact Ann or Neil or Peter or myself or Wendy, and we are always quick to offer advice. So that kind of, has anybody got any questions about the chip piles? I think it's.
I do.
Oh, go ahead, Dominique.
So my question is, there's a giant pile. We've been putting, sticks in a giant pile, and I need to dig it and put it through the screen. All the little bits, again, bring it to the bin, but it won't be chipped.
Yeah, that's
okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Wanted to
Yeah,
confirm.
because the one thing that happens when, especially if people are doing some digging or whatever, and then they create a pile, is the worst thing for that chipper for every safety is having rocks and stuff in it. So it just becomes very dangerous. So if it's kind of a questionable thing, we would prefer to come down to the bin rather than have those guys chip it. Because, well,
No.
if they see rocks, they won't chip it. But, yeah.
Thank you for everything you do. Okay, that's my last question. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Neil. I'm going to talk about hours and the importance of hours.
Right. Well, so far the response of people giving me their hours has been underwhelming, but I guess people are waiting till, hopefully, waiting to the end of the month or waiting till the beginning of our Firesmart week. Remembering, of course, that hours, if people are down there helping with the loading of bins or whatever, that counts as well. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of hours from the rest of the community. I probably have more hours than anyone else at this point. But I understand that I think Wendy has come up with some prizes, gift certificates. So some of us we're getting old and we forget things. So I guess I didn't remember we had a draw for the spring last year, but apparently we did. We did have a draw for the fall that I can remember. So we're going to have a draw for the spring cleanup, and that relates to getting your hours into me so I can put your name in for the draw. If you don't get your hours to me, then your name doesn't go in for the draw. How many gift certificates are there, Rick? You know?
I believe there's 4.
Yeah.
And also some late breaking news. There might be another secret prize as well. So we'll reveal that on the day of the draw. So.
So, and just as a reminder about what you should be doing around your property, it's a little early with given all the rain for cleaning gutters and roofs, but that's a major part of fire smarting your house is to have clean valleys and clean gutters. You don't want overhanging branches if you can avoid it. And any branches around your property should be pruned to at least 2 meters, so you're not having firs or cedars hanging over possible sites where grass can grow or even shrubs. Generally, it's, yeah, as Rick had mentioned, if you're using chips, don't put them next to your buildings. Have a space of a couple of meters really away from the buildings. Off the top of my head, have I missed anything? Anyone
I
can
think
think?
that's good, Neil. Yeah, for sure.
I just would like to reiterate that it's really important that people send us their hours because that's our grant is based on the number of community volunteer hours. And so if people don't send in their hours, then we don't get as much money. And also remember that hours that you expended on your own property, fire smarting it, also count. So not just the stuff that happens when the chip truck comes or when we clean out the parks, but you know, the amount of time that you spent taking dead branches off your yard and cleaning up, that should count as well.
Yeah, good point, Peter. That's yeah.
Rick.
So,
Oh, Rick, I just had a question.
Okay.
I have, in my neighborhood, there are people that have great big piles of branches and leaves, and they do not do anything about it. It just stays there and it gets drier and drier and drier. And it's a huge fire hazard. Is there anything as an island we can do about that?
yeah, we've had this question a few times, Bev, and you know, we're obviously not a regulatory group, but
Yeah.
we've been kind of relying on peer pressure to this point, but I think that's sort of one of the discussions we want to have as we're working through our amended plan is people who are pretty dedicated to fire resiliency have done some pretty nice things on their property, and it is a shame if you've done all that work and your neighbors is kind of doing the opposite. So I know some people have offered to cut their neighbor's lawn if their grass is long, or do some trimming, or do, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think that's a pretty good discussion for us to have this when we have our public meeting, and just see if we can work our way through that a little bit. And, you know, maybe at some point we need to get the NIMO fire rescue involved as well if there's hazardous properties and stuff. So yeah, I think we have to keep that one alive so that we can deal with that through the year here.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. The last item is the sprinkler trial. So on May 14th at 10 o'clock, we've kind of got to work through the bugs of how we're going to do our alert here for everyone, so that everyone turns, when the last few years we've given out as prizes if people have purchased these WASP sprinkler kits that hang on your gutters, and some other people have purchased some privately, and other people have built their own systems. So what we want to do is turn them all on at the same time and test their effectiveness. We're going to try and leave them on for like 10 or 15 minutes and just make sure that if they're all turned on, we've got enough pressure. Fire rescue's already okayed that with the water works people in the city. So if the system fails, then it's not completely our fault. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea. So we'll figure out some way of having a countdown and everybody turning their stuff on. But just if you've got a system, it does take a couple minutes to set up and stuff and get all the hoses hooked up. So if you could kind of do that ahead of time, so that once 10 o'clock rolls around, you know, maybe it's like the CBC where you have the beeping up to the 10 o'clock or something, or hitting the horn. I'm not sure. We'll figure something out, but we certainly want to try this because we believe there's probably something like 60 households potentially that have some kind of a system, and we just want to make sure that in the case of an emergency that everything's going to work fine. So that is what we want to do. I don't know if anybody would have any questions about that, but yeah, I think unless there's anything else that anybody's got any questions or concerns about, we do appreciate everyone's participation in the program. Like Peter mentioned, it's critical to transfer your efforts into hours that get to Neil so that we can submit that to Firesmart every year. And to be honest, they were absolutely blown away last year when they saw how many hours a community of 350 people generated. So you know, we just encourage you to keep up the good work and come out and participate and come down. I think well, now Wendy's here. She's not totally shirking her duties, so she's got all of Wendy and Anna have all the snacks. I think Nikki's making a lot of stuff for our thing on Saturday. So come on down and have a drink and a snack and bring some stuff to the bins.
Rick?
Neil's got one more thing.
Yeah, just as we've done, just to remind people, you know, if you go out on Monday and you do 2 hours, and then on Thursday you do 3 hours, and then the week after maybe 1 hour, like that's just way too much bookkeeping for me for individual days. I want your hours in bulk, you know, March to May. Just give me the number. And that's how I recorded them. And that's what we sent in to the Firesmart provincial. And they were quite happy with that.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess that's a good thing to mention, you know, because what Neil does is he basically breaks the year in half. So everything from January 1 to our Firesmart is kind of one thing, and that gets you in for the prizes, and then we start over again until our November Firesmart. So anything you do that's Firesmart related all through the summer into the fall, include that in your next one, and anything you've done up to this point, include that as well. And, yeah. Okay. Well, Catherine must be talking to somebody. All right, well, I am going to stop the recording. Hopefully